Hey, this is H1, and the first game that we're going to be going over is by Ludwig against MrBeast. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, we got the first few moves, e4, e5, knight f3, attacking the e5 pawn, and then MrBeast did the move knight f6. And let me just say the ratings of both of them on chess.com was Ludwig 1190 against MrBeast, who was 695. After knight f6, which initiates the Russian game, we got the move knight takes on e5. After knight takes on e5, knight takes on e4. Then we got the move queen e2. If knight just moves back, then this would be a common trap, queen checking the king, and so this knight is going to take the queen some way, somehow. But black didn't fall for this and did the move d5. After d5, d3, we got the move f6. After f6, but d takes on e4, f takes on e5, e takes on d5, and then we got the first few moves. Queen takes on d4, knight goes to c3, attacking the queen, and then MrBeast put the queen back to d6. And this is the position that we got right now. We're not done with the opening, but they're playing pretty solid games. Now, the only thing I don't like about black's position is they got 3 pawn islands, and this is definitely an isolated pawn in the middle game. If he deals with this and gets some initiative with this isolated pawn, just maybe he could beat Ludwig. After the move queen d6, Ludwig did the move queen to d3, trading off the pieces. After queen takes on d3, bishop takes on d3, which I don't know about the queen trade here, since that isolated e pawn could have been attacked a lot more. Maybe queen to e4 would have been just a tiny bit better, but hey, I'm not the one playing here. After bishop takes on d3, knight c6, bishop to g5, just out there, nowhere to be found. What's the second follow-up here? After bishop g5, then we got the move g6, which goes into some risky territory if Ludwig finds this move. I wonder, does Ludwig do bishop to g6, checking the king first before pushing the bishop back to a safe square? No, he does not. He does the move bishop to h4. Probably going to get hit with the g5 next. I don't know what MrBeast has planned. And he does get hit with the g5 next. Maybe checking the king would still be a possibility here first, but I don't know. Ludwig does the move bishop g3. Now, there was no intermezzo moves, and probably that tactic wasn't taught to them. I know during this time, which this was last year in 2021, they was getting trained by people like Hikaru Nakamura, Botez sisters, Gotham Chess, etc. So yeah, this was very popular. After bishop g3, MrBeast did the move knight to d4. Instead of developing pieces like you should be doing in the opening, developing pieces, castling the king, etc. Queenside castling happened. There should be no way, shape, or form why Ludwig should lose this. I mean, even in that instance, he didn't even have the queenside castle. Bishop takes on e5 was winning too. After queenside castling, bishop g7, protecting the pawn. Then Ludwig finally did the check on g6, attacking the king. MrBeast is definitely in trouble, especially after rook h to e1, attacking the pawn one more time. And like I said before, that is a weak pawn. And what do we do when our opponent has weaknesses? We target them, all right? So since that bishop is on g6, targeting the king, we can just assume that we're out of the opening. Our opponent decided to not castle their king and not develop their pieces, so this should be easy for Ludwig. For example, Ludwig is actually equal material, plus king safety since he queenside castle, plus development, center control, plus center control. Even though that there's a pawn and a knight on d4, they're being targeted very easily. And in pawn structure, better on pawn structure, and definitely better on space. Should be winning this pretty quickly after you get all the pieces developed. Hopefully Ludwig doesn't let us down at this moment, all right? So after we play the next few moves, bishop g6, king d7, and then we have this move, knight to e2. And in this situation, he could have probably best move the king out the way, but MrBeast did the move c5, c5, which runs into c3, because like you found out in the game, you can't move the knight. The c3 pawn is definitely going to be taking a knight the next turn, since that knight is pinned to the king on the d file. And yeah, MrBeast is definitely in trouble by losing that knight. King c7 happened, and after king c7, c takes on d4, c takes on d4, then Ludwig hurry up and move the king to b1. After king b1, rook a d8, a rook c1, checking the king one more time. Then we got the move king to b8. And I don't know if I just missed it or not, but in this position, king b, like, you didn't even have to do king b1. You could have just took this pawn on the d4 square, since that bishop was pinning that pawn to the king. A lot of moves that were missed here, but he definitely did take advantage of that one pin, doing the move c3. After king b8 in this position, rook c5 was played here. I wish Ludwig would have got the other rook back into the game, maybe doing rook h to d1, but instead he did rook c5, which kind of makes the position a little bit questionable, just a little bit. He's still winning, obviously, but you know, it is what it is. After a5, not defending this pawn at all on the e5 square, that just made it gobble gobble time. Gobble gobble time. I actually said that word in my YouTube video. So after bishop takes on e5, bishop takes on e5, rook a6, just hurry up to rook lift that bad boy, hitting the g6 bishop. Hopefully Ludwig doesn't see that attack. Like, would Ludwig see it? Yes, actually, no, he didn't. He did rook. Wait a minute, not here. Wait a minute, I skipped a move. Bishop takes, rook takes on e5, then rook to a6, attacking that bishop. All right, so after rook is attacking that bishop, Ludwig did the move rook d1, not seeing that attack at all. Like, I know that's like a far reach here to see this move, but man, Ludwig definitely had tunnel vision in that moment, in which MrBeast took advantage of. And now the tides are turning. Now imagine the mindset that he had here. He's definitely was winning just outright. Now he potentially might be losing. And even though he's not losing, the mental state is gone once you lose a piece. Now Ludwig is going to have to change his whole mindset to remember, okay, maybe I can just get this win, and then I can deal with the whole mindset change later. And that's what he did. He did the move b3, just continue on with the game. After doing move b3, rook to d6, rook takes on a5, just taking pawns now. If you're a beginner, just take the pawns that are given to you. If your opponent gives you pieces, just take them. Once you face tougher opponents, you're not gonna get those type of captures anymore. But as a beginner, you have to look at all your forcing moves, all your checks, captures, and threats. And MrBeast kept on keeping up the initiative with the move d3. And he has a whole battery behind that pawn too. It's gonna be hard to get that pawn off the board in this moment. Knight c3 was played. After knight c3, MrBeast did a blunder again. And this is a major one because he could have came back, but he decided not to. I guess he didn't decide to, because when you do a blunder, I mean, nobody expects to do a blunder in the game. Nobody does. And Ludwig found that opportunity and he took that bishop off the board, going to f5. d2 was played here. And I know that MrBeast was just hoping that maybe Ludwig would move that rook off the d1 square, but he never did. After knight to e4, attacking the pawn one more time, then we got the move rook d5, and then MrBeast did a crucial mistake here. All right, when you're down in material, do not trade pieces. You don't trade pieces at all. All right, because that just makes it easier for Ludwig. And that's what happened here. Rook takes on d5, rook takes on d5, and easily enough, hopefully Ludwig did the move actually just take the pawn. I was gonna say king c2 first, but yeah, you could just take the pawn since the knight is covering the rook on d2. And then he kept on exchanging pieces that just made this position easier for Ludwig to win. After knight takes on d2, and then the game continued like this. We got the move knight d4, king c7, knight c5, wait a minute. Knight d4, I'm up here going too fast. Knight d4, king c7, wait a minute. King c7, knight e4, king d7, knight c5. There we go. Knight c5, king c6, attacking a knight. Maybe he will get a free knight. Then the move b4 happened. And in most endgames, all Ludwig had to do was just push the pawns and get a queen, and push the pass pawns, of course. But this just took a while. b6, and after the move b6, we got the move knight to e6. And then MrBeast did the move king d5, fighting with his life with the one king. After king d5, knight g7, then we got the move king e5. And maybe, just maybe, he would have had a chance maybe taking the pawns on the queen side, but I don't know. He did the move king e5. After king e5, a4, king back to d5, Ludwig did the move a5. And this is when the position might just be over, because Ludwig is getting a pass pawn on the queen side, and all he has to do is bring this king to the king side, take these pawns, push these pawns up. MrBeast decided to take the pawn on the a5 square. B takes on a5, king c6, and after king c6, knight f5, king b5. Maybe just doing h5 would have withheld the loss here. After knight f5, king b5, then we got the move knight takes on h6, king takes on a5, king c2, and I think we know what happened here. King b5, king d3, king c5. We're just gonna go along until he takes the last pawn. King e4, king d6, king f5, king e7, and Ludwig went along to take the last pawn, get a checkmate with the queen and king, and let's move on to the second match. Actually, MrBeast might have a chance to get some, especially when he played the white pieces. And I think they figured out, oh snap, Ludwig, maybe his openings on the black side needed some help before this tournament was even done. All right, so let's see MrBeast actually get his win, even though we know him as like this famous YouTuber. And yeah, he might be a future grandmaster too. He's young enough, you know what I mean? Come on, MrBeast. Gotta refresh. In the second game, MrBeast is the white pieces and Ludwig is the black pieces. Let's continue. MrBeast started off the game with e4, d5, so Ludwig knows how to play the Scandinavian. All right, that's a big surprise. After e takes on d5, queen takes on d5, I wouldn't never teach a beginner how to play the Scandinavian because normally they don't know how to deal with the queen being out so early. But MrBeast attacked the queen by doing the move knight c3. After queen d6, we got the move g3, fianchettoing the bishop, knight f6. So now MrBeast is actually developing his pieces and trying to get castled. So bishop g2, bishop to f5, then we got the move h3. And maybe not h3, maybe just developing another piece, hurrying up in the castling, but h3 has a purpose too, preventing knight g4, bishop g4, etc. After h3, knight b to d7, we got the move g4 that was done. And I don't know why he was doing moves like this when he should have been developing his knight, his bishop, doing moves like d4, developing his queen, castling, etc. Why did he do h3 and g4 attacking the bishop? He's not just going to get a free bishop from a tough opponent. Maybe he will though. After the move bishop g6, running away from being captured, then MrBeast did the move d3. He loved pushing pawns on the king side. He did that with the black pieces too the last game. After d3, castle queen side, and then we got the next few moves, knight g to e2 and e6. And look what Ludwig has been doing for the whole tournament now, just developing pieces naturally. The queen is out there, can be targeted very easily with moves like bishop f4, but let's see if, actually, dang, he did the move e5. So he can't be targeted with moves like bishop f4. That was my bad. So after knight g to e2, d5, so he can't be targeted with moves like bishop f4. And yeah, that just makes this a lot more difficult for MrBeast to win. Let's see if he can do it. After d5, bishop to e3, I'm glad that he's developing most of his pieces a lot more than the last game. Now, Ludwig did the move king b8. After king b8, queen d2, and now MrBeast is deciding to castle on the queen side maybe, and we got the move a6, and he decided to castle on the king side. I would have liked the queen side maybe just to put some pressure on the opponent, but you know, his pieces are super passive even though this h3 g4 push was made here. h5 would have definitely wrecked white's position, which h5 was played here. After h5, let's go along with the evaluation. Where's my marker at? My trusty marker. All right, let's look over here. Material is equal. King safety, black is better at king safety, so we're gonna have to minus that. Time and development, yeah, black is better. Just because of this h5 push, pushing up Hector, now black is gonna have this file on the h file. You know, king safety, black is gonna have to be, actually, I would say white. I would say white just a little bit. This queen is doing a disfavor for the bishop on f8. That's why I would say white, because those two bishops is actually targeting the queen side right now. MrBeast is just gonna have to find some type of attack on the queen side. Pawn structure, nothing has happened yet, so it's equal. Space, black has more space. You should definitely want to be black in this position. After h5, g5, knight h7, then we got the move b4. Now we're finally putting some pressure on our opponent. MrBeast is doing a fine, good job. MrBeast. After b4, queen takes on b4, which Ludwig captured the pawn. Now it gets a little bit dangerous after rook b1. He should have never captured that pawn. There's some pawns that you should not capture, and that b pawn was one of them, since like I mentioned before, this bishop on g2 is on this diagonal, this bishop on e3 is on this diagonal, ready to attack. And so now, in order for white to have a successful attack, which all he needs is 4 to 5 pieces, he has them right there. And this queen is ready to go to the queen side too. After rook b1, queen d6, what happens here? He goes rook b2. Rook b2, probably setting up a battery, even though he could have just took the pawn on the b7 square. He missed the opportunity, and Ludwig was like, okay, if you're not gonna do that move, then I'm not gonna let you have a second chance, because, you know, I respect my opponent's threats, which Ludwig did the move c6. Now c6, let me see for if there's a different move here. Maybe c6 is the only move. I was thinking maybe knight b6 or knight c5, but nope. c6, just shut it all down. Shut it all down, let's get your h-pawn in the game. After c6, MrBeast did the move rook f2 b1. This position would have been perfectly fine for black if he would have never captured that b-pawn, but that's what happens. You get overzealous. You won the first game, you're excited, and you almost lost, but you came back. You got all the adrenaline going through your head, and yeah, the person is beating you who is like 500 rated points under you, which does happen sometimes. After rook f to b1, we got the move b5, which that move is ugly. Once you have to start doing pawn moves like that, pushing the pawns in front of your king, you already know that you have a worse position. There's moves like a4, there's moves like knight a4, going into these diagonals. I mean, going into these weak squares, since this bishop on e3 is protecting those, is attacking those weak squares already. So like moves like knight a4, knight b6, knight c5, etc. Of course, not knight c5. I see both the queen and knight, but you have to be imaginative when you're playing chess. The quick move that he played was a4, obviously. After a4, king c7, trying to run away with the king, we got the move a takes on b5. After a takes on b5, a takes on b5, we got a pretty shocking move if you can find what MrBeast done here. MrBeast did a rook sacrifice, rook takes on b5, c takes on b5, and hopefully you've seen it already. Knight takes on b5, forking the king and the queen at the same time. With these two bishops still attacking, this queen is going to be going over to the queen side pretty soon. And yeah, this is just a free attack that black has given white by taking the dumb b4 pawn. That was a pure sacrificial move by MrBeast. It was crazy. So after king to c8, knight takes on d6, bishop has to take on d6. I gotta make sure because these are beginners playing. So after bishop takes on d6, queen c3 was played. And once you get the queen and rook combo on the naked king, there has to be a checkmate somewhere in the position. Knight c5 was played. After knight c5, bishop takes on c5. It's just ugly. You just start throwing these pieces down on the ground. After bishop takes on c5, queen takes on c5, and yeah, it's just done here. King d7, queen takes on e5. You just start taking all the pieces that are free. That's a naked king right there in the middle of the board. Rook h to e8. There's rook b7 in this position. He didn't do rook b7. That would have been way better, but he did the move queen b5, allowing his opponent to run out of the way. Why are you doing this, MrBeast? After queen b5, king e7, Ludwig is finally getting his way, but maybe, just maybe, queen c5 is stopping Ludwig from escaping to the f8 square to g8 and having a good potential drawn game. He still is up like 500 rating points. After king e7, rook d6, knight f4, attacking the bishop, having that rook be pinned. The king cannot go to f8 because the queen would just take the rook off the board. So yeah, black is stuck. That's why he did the move rook e to d8. After rook e to d8, knight takes on g6. F takes on g6. Knight f5, not f5, f8, h4, protecting the g5 pawn. And then we got the move, wait a minute. Wait a minute, I did it wrong. I did it wrong again. F takes on g6. Push that back. F takes on g6, h4, and knight to f8, and now we got the move rook a1. Now we got the move rook a1. Even though rook b7 could have been played multiple times in this game and would have been winning, knight d7 was played. MrBeast moved back with the queen, being afraid, and usually that's like a mistake by beginners, that what they do. You want to be more aggressive the superior your position is. So rook to a7 would have definitely pinned the knight to the king and just kept all of his pieces locked away until you eventually win the game. But he did the move queen e3. After queen e3, and all that matters is that he won the game anyway. Rook e6, queen d4, king f8. Then we got the move of rook to a8, attacking the rook. The bishop is protecting the rook, so MrBeast is just blundering pieces, you know? After rook a8, Ludwig could have potential rook e1 prospects here, which he did take. Rook to e1, checking the king, and then after rook e1, king h2, and Ludwig decided to take the rook since that was his only other move to do, or he would just lose his rook. Hopefully, MrBeast took the rook back. Yes, he did. He took the rook back on a8. Then he played knight e5. That's what Ludwig played. After knight e5, queen b4. Definitely demolishing his opponent, checking the king, attacking the rook. A fork that just came out of nowhere. King g8. And then queen takes on e1. And this is definitely winning. And you might think that knight f3 is a fork that could happen, but this bishop is still on this diagonal that can stop that fork. Ludwig did try it. And MrBeast did the biggest mistake. I don't know why he did this, but he did the move king g3. He did not see that he could just take the knight with the bishop, and he lost the queen. That's why you never give up in chess. After losing the queen, MrBeast still is like, I got 2 pawns left. They're both going to be promoted by the end of the day. After d4, knight takes on c2, d5, king f4, well, d5, king f8, king f4, king e7, king e5. We got the move knight e1, d6, and after d6, king d8, king e6, and after king e7, probably d7 would have been a little bit better in this endgame because that just allowed his king to easily go up, go to f7, take these pawns off the board, and push those pawns. You got to learn your endgames. After king e6, knight to d3. Then you got the move bishop to c6. You should have just ran and took these pawns a long time ago. Ludwig did the move knight b4, and he should have noticed that there's no way to get this king off the d8 square. He should have just went for these pawns on the king side. Because MrBeast has a light square bishop, there is no way to get this king off this dark square. Like what Ludwig was trying to still win and take that bishop, but MrBeast saw it and did the move bishop a4. After bishop a4, knight a6. Then MrBeast finally found the idea to go to king f7, taking these pawns and trying to promote somewhere else. Ludwig did the move knight c5, still not giving up, which is a really good quality to have because he would have never got that fork off, well, semi fork off, and took the queen. After bishop b5, we got the move knight to e4, push up pawn, and then knight takes on g5, which is pretty dangerous. Do MrBeast take the knight back? No, he does not, and do the move king takes on g7. After king takes on g7, king knight to e4, king takes on g6, knight takes on f2, going straight up into an endgame, even though this should have been completely lost like 15 moves ago. King takes on h5, and this is back winning again if MrBeast plays the right moves. After king takes on h5, knight e4, then we got the move king g6, and this should be winning. Just push up the pawn, MrBeast, and you have the game. Ludwig did the move knight g3. MrBeast did the move h5. Now Ludwig has to sacrifice his knight for the pawn, or else. King takes on h5, and MrBeast is finally winning. King e7. Well, he was winning a long time ago, but you know what I mean. King g5, king d8, and hopefully he did king f6. Yes, he did. After king f6, king c7. Then we got the move king e7, king b6, trying to take the bishop. Bishop moves, which is, man, MrBeast was like, I'm not giving you no more pieces in this position. King moves back to c7, and then pawn promotes to a queen, and this ended with MrBeast finally winning in the second match against Ludwig, all right? it was a roller coaster, but he got the wind off, and Ludwig actually, man, imagine just doing that mistake, just taking that pawn on b4, and just seeing MrBeast just pile on the b file, even though he could have won the position a lot faster, a lot more efficiently, but hey, he's rated at 600, and you gave him this position where he just annihilated the black pieces. It was crazy. It was crazy enough. What do you think about it? I know this was back all the way in 2021, but these games was pretty entertaining at that time, these PogChamps games. And then, yeah. So Ludwig won the first game, MrBeast won the second game, they got a draw in the third game, and then the fourth game they played, Ludwig finally got the dub. But it's interesting seeing these like personalities face off against each other and realizing what repertoire they want to get. And yeah, it was just all a fun experience for everybody to enjoy their favorite YouTuber or Twitch star like beat the other opponent in an ancient game called chess. Okay, until the next video, and tell me if you want me to go over the other two games.